Well, greetings to you all, my brothers, and all members of our extended Passionist family. This is an opportunity for a province report. It doesn't pretend to cover every aspect of our life, every issue in our province. These are the main themes and significant points that I feel are good to highlight at this time. I begin with a greeting to you all at this post-Easter period. I hope these celebrations and ceremonies have been wonderful and meaningful for yourselves and for all to whom we reach out in ministry and witness. So I'm focusing today on our Passionist presence, the presence of our professed brothers. I want to begin with a brief panorama of our local communities. From the beginnings of our congregation, the local community has been and is the cell of our Passionist identity, our Passionist congregation. A province is only constituted by communities. But it has occurred to me that for many of our religious now, that we are spread across 4 nations, that we will not always, and perhaps for some never, see each of the Passionist presences that we currently have spread across the nations. So I would like to briefly highlight the 10 places where we currently are. As I mentioned, we are a multicultural, multilingual, and multinational province with presence of various forms in each of these countries. New Zealand, we don't have a physical community presence at the moment, but we have a great deal of presence of the charism through our extensive lay partnerships, through the companions, and especially through the family group movement. In Vietnam, we currently have 3 communities and looking to expand. In Papua New Guinea, the 2 major centres, and in Australia, the 6 places. So a quick panorama of the province. We begin with the Provincial Office, which is responsible for the overall coordination of our province's life. It's based in our community at St Bridget's at Marrickville. The Provincial Office liaises with various committees of the province, our Finance Committee, our Formation Committee, Professional Standards Committee, and we have direct links with the apostolic outreach of the family group movement, the English language school, the Passionist Heart Foundation, our youth retreat team based in Oxley, our companions movement, and we are currently, with the help of Father Kevin Hennessy, especially this year, coordinating mission appeals for our support of our work in Papua New Guinea and in Vietnam. There are many other matters, especially of finance and legal administration, that the Provincial Office attends to. But to start with Australia, the presences are perhaps well known to the province members, and in fact many will have been to many of these communities. We start, as I mentioned, in Marrickville, St Bridget's Retreat, which is, as I've said, the home to our Provincial Office. It's also our Provincial House. The community in which the Provincial resides is the Provincial House. It houses our office administration, our parish, and our community of some 16 religious. You can see here an aerial view of St Bridget's. And of St Bridget's Church, a very large inner western church in the Archdiocese of Sydney. We move to our community in Tasmania, St Joseph's Retreat, which for us is a parish ministry and our local community. Currently 5 members reside in St Joseph's. You can see here our church. The buildings on the right are also owned by the province, and we reside in the buildings at the rear of the church. St Joseph's Church is historic and has convict construction origins. It's also very beautifully restored by Brother Nicky all those years ago. We moved to Queensland, to our community in Oxley, St Mary's Retreat, which houses our local community of 4 religious and is also a base for our Passionist Youth Retreat team, which is so successful. You can see that our presence in Oxley is a more simple presence. The original house, has been extended several times to accommodate the men. It's a very peaceful retreat. And we moved to South Australia, to our community in Glen Osmond, St Paul of the Cross Retreat, which is our community, a parish and retreat house ministries with other associated works in our grounds and gardens, the Memorial Garden and the Sacred Garden. Currently a community of 7 with a visitor at the moment. That's why I've put 6 and 1. Father David Wilkie residing in a nursing home at the moment. You can see here St Paul's and a part view of our gardens, and also St Raphael's Church, first looked after by the Passionists in the early 1900s, and we resumed care of the church and incorporated it into our parish in just after the year 2000. To Victoria and to one of our 2 houses in Melbourne at Endeavour Hills, St Paul Apostle Parish, we have a community house and essentially a parish ministry, although some of the men based there currently engage in extended apostolic works. You can see here the church, St Paul Apostle, a very modern and a church that's been redesigned interiorly. And our residence. We have 2 homes similar to this. This is one of them, Father Chris there. And we live in a very suburban setting here at Endeavour Hills. To Templestowe suburb of Melbourne for Holy Cross Retreat, our second and older community presence in the Archdiocese of Melbourne. Here we have a community which is fundamental mission here, a formation-based community, education-based community, Yarra Theological Union, and we have the Holy Cross Centre, which is a retreat and conference centre, with 13 members of the community and 3 members attending the language school. So Holy Cross is also base for our language school based at Yarra Theological Union. Simple pictures here of Holy Cross. The original invitation to the opening in 1965. You can see the architect's intention to design the building like a dove, as in Holy Spirit province. To leave now to journey to Papua New Guinea, our 2 major presences in the nation of Papua New Guinea, in Port Moresby and in Vonimo, in the northwest corner of the country. Papua New Guinea, for those who've never been there, it would be typically represented by a picture like this as you travel between the 2 houses. In Vonimo, in the northwest part of the country, our essential work here is the Centre Belong Help'em. We have a small community residence suitable for between 2 to 4 religious. Currently, there are no professed religious residing in Vonimo. But the work of the centre continues, mostly with lay administration and lay voluntary help at the moment. It's a very simple centre, but it services between 35 to 26 people each working day, Monday to Friday, during the school term essentially, feeding, educating and attending to physical conditions that require therapy for the people. The location of the centre is quite idyllic and very close to the coast, as you can see. If we travel down to Port Moresby, the national capital, St Gabriel's Retreat is our community house and the base for our parish, also the base for our formation, in that we have 7 students, studying at the moment in Port Moresby. This is some views now of St Gabriel's Retreat. And of our parish, St Joseph's Barocco, which is the largest of our parishes in the province, with very large numbers in the congregation and very full churches 3 or 4 times every weekend, up to 1,000 people each time. And moving further north to Vietnam, we are currently have religious in 3 locations, with a hope that we will soon have the possibility of a new community base in Bon Ma Thuot. At the moment, we have a small community in Vinh, 3 religious, and in Saigon, we have 2 religious houses in Ho Chi Minh City. So in Saigon, St Paul's Retreat, the larger of our 2 residences, official residences that is home to 24 religious. It's a very large 5 or 6 story building with views across the Saigon River. And while it only has a very small garden area, it does creatively make most and best use of that area too. Transport in Vietnam, at least for our men, is essentially motorbike transport across the city. So every one of our houses also has to have garage space. We also have St Gabriel's house, currently the novitiate house, and in the future also very likely a house for postulants, and with the new additions, aspirants. St Gabriel's is a typically constructed, narrow-based house, but tall, several stories high. The building on the right, the white building you see, is the new construction being built to adjoin St Gabriel's. This will become a base for the aspirants, young men who have not yet become postulants, but who are seeking to join the congregation. So we'll have 2 houses adjoining each other on the one property that we own. In Vinh, we do not yet have a community house. Through the generosity of a benefactor, we are living in a suburban house with 3 religious. This is the site where we hope soon to not just purchase land, but to begin construction of a new community residence. This is near the site we are currently negotiating to buy. This small station church of the local parish is one that the bishop has assured us would be assigned to us. The church would hold or hosts about 200 people. And currently we have 3 religious living in Dang Nai, but we are looking to move to the Dak Lak province and hopefully to the city of Bon Ma Thuot to have a new venture there. The building in white is the current residence for our brothers, and on the left you see the more mountainous zone of Dak Lak with a new different climate because of its mountainous location, coffee growing centre, and hopefully a new location for Passionist ministry in the future. This is the land that, again, we are looking at in Dak Lak, and we may be able to enter into an agreement with the owners for a period of perhaps a 5-year transition between residence and purchase. As you can sense, perhaps from our student numbers, we do need to expand our presence, certainly in Vietnam, possibly in Papua New Guinea, and expand in a different sense within the nation of Australia. You see what is before us. This is a little bit dated, but it gives you the indication of the numbers of young men who are attracted to the charism and wish to join the congregation as professed brothers or priests. The most recent profession involved 13 religious, both initial profession and final profession. And in Papua New Guinea, currently 4 professed students, 3 postulant students, and so we also look to our future there as well. So now I'd like to share a bit about the current realities for us. I'm picking some different themes, but to speak about our communities, the complexity of our life to come, and the common future which we embrace. It seems to me that relationships in our province will become, if they are not already, the key reality for us to focus on and to build. We may never again have an open chapter or a province-wide assembly. We are learning to be a province in a new way. The Passionists were founded to preach about God's love, and we exist primarily to foster our mission in the world. Together, we can expand that mission, even if we're not together physically. We are challenged. We have language, geographical distance, cultural differences, and we have to work to overcome these and compensate for them. However, there are other dynamics at work. The internet, social media, and new technologies are connecting us in new ways. It may not be face-to-face, but it is a new level of connection and a new level of possibility, as well as a new level of possible ministry. Now, our recent chapter focused us very clearly on our intercultural reality and propelled us into learning, to develop skills at community level and personal level, in our understanding and in our capacity to live interculturally. Nearly every community, not all, but nearly every community is an intercultural community at this very moment. Some with 5 different nationalities represented in the community, several with 4, and most with at least 1 or 2. And as I speak today, I have a sense of urgency. I think these next 3.5 years or so of the present term of this provincial council and the life of the province is very important for us. We have opportunities, but we have certainly some urgent need to act. We have a growing edge of the province, much younger membership in 2 of the 4 countries. And we have a much older membership and very established systems in Australia at least, and perhaps to an extent in New Zealand. We also have some crossover in Papua New Guinea as well. The point that I think is important for us to grasp is that this duality, this older Western aspect of the province, and especially in its membership, is significant at the moment. But our new and growing edge will continue. So while the present reality will prevail, I'm sure, for these next 5, perhaps longer years, our province will definitely shift its focus and its identity and its appearance within this window of 5 to 10 years maximum. We will be a very different province within 2 chapters at the most. And in saying that, we are really only a microcosm of the church that we minister to and indeed the congregation that we belong to. I've shared some of these statistics before, but I think in the present moment it's worth remembering that perhaps not in my lifetime, but certainly in the lifetime of the younger students whose photos you've just seen, within their first 2 decades of ministry, they will belong to a Catholic church that is 80% African, Asian or Hispanic. They are part of an international congregation and indeed a province that is both diminishing and growing at the same time. Congregationally, we're diminishing in the Northern Hemisphere and growing in the Southern Hemisphere. The first world, which is the foundation stones of the congregation's expansion across the world, is diminishing. Membership, number of houses, age of members. They were the missionary sending countries of the last century. They will not be the missionary sending countries of the future. On the other hand, we are growing. The congregation is growing in the equatorial and tropical and southern regions of the world. The growth is generally progressing at a steady rate. When the configurations were formed formed in a final way at the General Chapter of 2012, PASPAC was about the third largest of the configurations. Today, PASPAC is the largest of the 6 configurations of the congregation, and we are part of that growth. Our vocation seen across the world is confined almost exclusively to the zone of the world between tropics of Capricorn and Cancer. And as you see, our province in the main fits inside that sphere of growth. We are part, of course, of, as I mentioned, the largest of the configurations now, and we are one of 6 juridic entities within that configuration. The other 5 being, as you can read, Japan, Korea, which looks after China, the Philippines, India, Indonesia. I might add that we have extended the Indian brothers working in other countries across North America and Europe, and Philippines brothers working in Israel and in Sweden. Indonesian brothers work in various locations also, including generously collaborating with us into the future in Papua New Guinea. We, the 4 nations of our province, make up the 6th juridic entity within the PASPAC configuration. Those figures that I've shown you, the growth and diminishment of the congregation, might be seen by some as a sunset, but by others, and I hope all of us, as a sunrise, a new opportunity, but one that will have to be embraced and will call many things from us. But we do it all for the sake of our mission. So as I've mentioned, our recent chapter really focused these 4 years of our life on learning about intercultural life and propels us to develop goals that are to develop skills and understanding and capacity to live interculturally. There's a great deal to learn, many, many things, and I can only encourage everyone. We have some particular challenges. We have, as the foundations of the congregation suggest to us, very Western systems of administration, congregational law and regulations, financial management systems. These are all Western-based, and yet our membership extends beyond a Western mindset. These are significant challenges for us to both recognize and then adapt to. We have to maintain systems across 3 or 4 different legal systems and within 3 or 4 different entities in terms of commercial life and contractual life. We need to balance our intercultural reality. We have different ways of thinking about things, different models of reasoning, different patterns of behavior. We have Asian rhythms, we have Melanesian rhythms, we have Western rhythms. As I mentioned here, we have different ways of reasoning things, not only languages, but different thinking patterns. We have different cultural expectations of situations and of behavior, and we are all influenced by our own cultures. The challenge for us is to get behind all of that, to understand this reality, and to work with it as best we can. We have financial concerns as a province. We are challenged to expand. and expansion also requires financial capacity. We have a smaller Western-based workforce, and so future funding may well come from other sources. And some of the other countries in which we work are very supportive of the church, but the scale sometimes of the projects we have before us will really call on other sources of income. Generosity of the United States Church has been amazing over many, many years, and we will still need such external helps. We're going to depend more and more into the future on our investments. As our income from ministry falls, we're going to need to maintain a solid investment base to have a continuous stream of income. And we have to balance our members in terms of leadership. We need to give experience to younger men, not experience that breaks them or discourages them, but experience that is more can be a subject of mentorship and shared learning. This is a challenge for us across all nations of the province. We also need to prepare all our leadership for the fact that we are living a multicultural life. We're doing it already. We need to always be conscious in our language of this reality so that we can hopefully affect our thinking and our attitudes and therefore our behaviour. So our projections for growth are quite significant. We are becoming quite a large province inside the congregation, perhaps the 5th largest now in the 26. We, in this next term, and before our next provincial chapter, we look like having around 15 ordinations and at least one final profession as a brother. That's a particularly wonderful situation, joyful, but also challenging. We need to establish ministries, locations, and work for 15 or 16 new members. We are working in different realities of what the church is in each country, and we have to keep alert to that reality all the time. And we have to be aware that as a larger province, we may well be called on to have a much greater international future in terms of support, both within PASPAC and indeed other parts of the world. So, coming towards some concluding statements, we're facing major expansions of ministry. As I mentioned, 15 ordinations, one brother. I think this requires creative imagination of us. In some countries, especially Vietnam, we won't be able to work in some of the traditional ways that we're accustomed to. We have to think about new possibilities, new kinds of ministries for Passionists, youth work, drop-in centres, health centres perhaps, coffee shops, new kinds of internet-based work, all kinds of ministries. We may not be given major parishes into our future. And we need to be aware that we, as a responsible member of PASPAC, may well be asked to help our brothers in some other entities, just as we will call on them to help us in some situations. We are meeting also an expanding world. It's a new level of challenge for us all. Society is moving much like the universe. As the universe expands, it speeds up. And to some extent, society is expanding in thought patterns and in behaviour, new rhythms, the movement away from institution, the movement away from tradition, etc. This is all happening to us, and it's happening even faster. So we're meeting an expanding world as a religious congregation. We have to be expanding as well, I believe. We have to meet also a financial challenge for our province. Our finance committee recommends to us that we need to generate another $1 million every year to maintain and expand the work and the life of our province. To create that amount of money will require significant investment of projects, We'll require new assets to be created so that we can have income from them. These are significant challenges for us. And I think too, as we look at that same expanding world, which is fundamentally fueled by a new technology, the digital world, just like every movement in history, society changes when technology changes. So we are witnessing a new technologies expanding into our world at a rapid rate. So life will change in accord with that too. We already see that. We see it in pastoral life. We see it in our own lives even. We see it in the change of rhythms in community life, from a common television, for example, to individual streaming on all sorts of devices. We need to keep reflecting on what's happening in our world because it's happening to us. And we need to create some new systems to meet that world. I think of areas like finance and record keeping, which in communities have often been based on petty cash tins and books, when the whole world is moving towards digital economies and digital recording, reading, documentation, for example. Do we not need to think about how our religious will work and live? And in a world that's moving away from cash, how are we going to participate in that world? What kind of credit cards will we have? What kind of limits will we have on our personal expenditure? What kind of corporate decision making will we make about individual spending patterns? These are new realities for us to face, but we must acknowledge that they're happening, and therefore we must try to cope with them. We, in the coming years, need to, I believe, encourage transitions in ministry and leadership. New men need to be introduced and mentored to take up major roles and ministries and responsibilities in the province. We enjoy, each of us, the benefits of membership. We must also embrace the responsibilities of membership. We won't be able to move into our future without our lay partners. We have lay partnerships already extremely active in the province at many levels already. Some of the committees and commissions that I highlighted at the beginning of this report, you see. Our administration, at least in our western zone, is primarily in the hands of laity, and we will continue to have that pattern. It will develop further in New Guinea, I'm sure, and eventually more so in Vietnam as well. We need to embrace lay partnership and learn and understand the dynamics of it. We are currently, and probably will always be, updating province policies and systems of accountability, risk management, for example. These are new demands of society, and we each have a responsibility to undertake our roles within that kind of social responsibility. And because of these and many other challenges, I just want to encourage everyone to keep embracing lifelong learning. We all must continue to learn, old and young. There's much ahead of us to know and to learn. Fundamentally, even if we don't meet physically, and many more things are done through this medium, internet-based communications and conferences, we still need to keep before us always the command, if you like, of Jesus to love one another. We need to know each other and appreciate each other. We are acting out of many differences. It's a matter, I think, of sitting quietly at times, listening sincerely, and trying our very best to understand each brother. And indeed, understand our sisters and brothers in our extended lay family and work with them too. My last image to share with you is simply to say, in some ways, our province is much like the web the spider weaves. It's strong but delicate. Each little part, each strand is taking its part in the whole and making the whole possible. But each part is vulnerable too, We must care for one another and care for all those we serve. Breaking one strand might not seem a great thing, but break several and we start to weaken the whole system. We touch or affect one part and it vibrates across the whole system. We are a unity, at times fragile, but also immensely strong. So brothers, sisters, thank you very much for being attentive to this. It's a symbolic report more than one full of facts and details, but I hope it gives you some sense of our province as we look forward to our virtual assembly in June of this year. So please keep those dates in mind too. Thank you. May God bless you.